you want to read this article, you can do so at justinstellman.com/A15. How I'm Overcoming Anger Addiction. It's often been said that those that need to learn teach. I found that to be the case in my personal life most definitely. I teach what I need to learn. I don't do it by choice, but life just seems to make that happen for me. I suspect it's not life or God that's, quote, making me teach or learn something. It's just that my soul has come here to learn lessons, and now happens to be the time where I need to learn a particular lesson. I'm reading a book right now called The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. I originally tried to read it in 2001 when I was traveling around the world on my vision quest. I had to take my own hero's journey. For almost a full year, I traveled to over 13 countries in search of the deeper aspects of life. In New Zealand, I tried to read this book and I just could not wrap my mind around the deeper concepts, so I just moved on to other books that made me think, like Atlas Shrugged. I used to think that, quote, God, who was high above us, forced us to learn lessons or made us go through painful circumstances in order for us to see him as he is. I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't think God toys with us like he did Job in the Bible. On the other hand, if somebody believes that God toys with people just for his glory, then it might be true for them. The idea that God would do that just never made sense to me. I don't see how God could just give some baby stage 3 cancer just so that the baby could learn a lesson. After many years of reading, studying, talking with hundreds of people who are on a similar journey in contemplation, I've come to the conclusion that we create many of the situations in our lives that are most difficult and painful. Perhaps God is allowing it to happen, or we incarnated into this life with God's blessing in order to learn certain lessons or balance karma from previous lives. Perhaps our soul, or the real essence of who we are, no matter what you call it, is injured and fragmented from previous lifetimes and previous incarnations. Maybe a certain part of itself needs to heal. Picture the soul like a pie graph. Let's say a slice of it is injured or corrupted in some way. That part of the soul, the slice that's injured, will incarnate into a physical, corporeal flesh of flesh and blood and align itself with a 5-sense personality that will be conducive to its own healing. The personality is just a computer program that lives inside a body that ultimately is controlled by our soul. When our soul decides to come into a body, it makes sense that it would choose a personality or computer program and a physical body that would be conducive to what the soul is here to do. For example, if I have unbalanced karma in my soul, like say anger and violence issues, that needs to be healed, it might make sense that my soul would choose a body and personality that might be abnormally large and strong. Or it might pick a body that's weak and would ultimately fall prey to someone who would take advantage of using it for violence. The body and personality we have are merely mirrors into what our soul is trying to heal. If I see somebody who is morbidly obese, it's pretty certain that the soul that lives in that body has some deeper issues to work on. Perhaps that soul lacks self-love, or maybe they are unable to give or receive forgiveness. I'm still trying to figure out how my physical body is connected to my soul with regards to learning soul lessons. Getting a little personal, I do have some insight on my personality and how that is relating to deeper soul healing lessons. Like I said at the beginning, we learn what we need to teach. My addictions. I've come to realize that I have a deep addiction to many things. People often talk about addictions to things like food or sex, computers, technology, shopping, and these types of behaviors. While I really don't have those issues, through meditation and contemplation, I've come to learn that I have addictions to emotions. For example, I'm addicted to negativity. I'm addicted to the feeling of fear. I'm addicted to feeling like there's not enough. I'm addicted to complaining. I'm addicted to anger, which comes from fear. I'm addicted to labeling and separation. And more on that later. I'm sure you can relate to many of these addictions as well. A friend of ours from our health radio show sent me an email and called me out on some of these issues. He could see it in my body language from a video I put out. Then I read the book, The Seat of the Soul, last night, and all of this was in there. It was as though my soul created a mirror for me to see what was really going on. So why am I addicted to negativity? Being negative helps me feel like I have power. When I interact with the world through my 5 sense personality and my body, I make the mistake of thinking that power and control happens somewhere outside of me. But there's always an upside to learning lessons and choosing unconscious behavior. It's feeding the parasite that lives inside us. It makes the parasite grow stronger, and then we attach to it, thinking that it, the parasite, is actually us. Why am I addicted to fear? Well, my soul needs to balance out karma. It needs to learn a lesson, so I create situations that will make me, my physical body, my 5 sense personality, fearful. I'm fearful of not having enough. I'm fearful of not being able to provide for my family by making enough money. But who's the one who's fearful here? It's my personality and my physical body. My soul can't be fearful. It's not possible. The soul must be connected to a lower vibrational entity, i.e. a body, in order to learn these lessons. Feeling like I have no control over things actually gives me a framework, something to complain about, and it helps me to feel like I have some control, although it's a false sense of control. For example, if I feel a knot in my stomach and I feel like I'm falling, I like to know if I'm falling out of a building in an airplane or maybe a roller coaster. Our 5 sense perceptions needs margins. Having a framework helps us to label our fears as this or that. It makes us feel like we have control. Why am I addicted to anger? This is a big one. My soul obviously has some desire to overcome anger, right? It wants to choose happiness and compassion. As a result, my soul has created life circumstances that continually allow me to make these choices. If you're angry, isn't it odd that you keep being involved in situations that make you angry? Why do you think you choose to incarnate with people that really push your buttons? See, the only reason they're here is to do just that, to push your buttons so you hopefully have the ability to make a conscious choice about how you respond to what they say or do to you. By living unconsciously and without awareness, I bought into the lie that I have no control over my life situations. I think that power lies in the 5 senses, quote, out there. When I give up my power like that, the only other way for me to come to terms with situations like that is by getting upset and getting angry. Because I lack awareness, I think that these situations are random, and they just seem to, quote, keep happening to me. I don't realize they're reflections of a broken soul who's come here to fix them so that they can heal. Because I unconsciously live in the 5 sense reality, I feel like I'm powerless over my life circumstances. I lack power. I lack control. So the only thing I can do is to summon up the most primal of my physical attachments, and that is just to get angry. The more you unconsciously choose these types of emotions, the more you draw them to you, and the more your soul needs to balance out that karma. You will continually create situations where you can choose awareness and then make better choices. But the problem is that you create new karma, the karma of anger. You now have a relationship with anger that becomes a brand new parasite within you. It grows, and each time you feed it, it becomes stronger the more you give into it. The stronger it gets, the more it dominates you, and the more you lose the ability to realize your own power. You continually become weaker and less conscious as a result of continually giving into your anger. The anger parasite now not just lives in you, but you feed it. It has grown into an entire demon that's now overtaking every thought you think and every depression you sink into and every emotion you feel. It becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. When, in your lack of awareness, you incorrectly think that it's become more powerful than you, that's when circumstances in your life come to a head. Big events start to happen. There are big life changes that happen as a result of feeding the anger parasite for many years. It's easy to give in to the idea of low vibrations and low emotions. These are low frequency vibrations that feed the parasite. Our soul has come here to become entangled in this web of life. As we all fight and struggle to get out of this web, some people are missing arms. Some people are missing legs. Some people simply enjoy being stuck in the web matrix. Then there's you. There's me. We realize that we're stuck. We have that realization. We have enough conscious awareness to realize what's going on. When you know, or we know our soul has come here to learn the very lessons we find ourselves stuck in. That's the first level of understanding, awareness, consciousness. When we realize what's going on, it helps us build a framework for not just what the lesson is, but how to use the lesson to grow spiritually. When we realize the game that's being played, we understand that the way out of this sticky web matrix doesn't involve flesh and blood. It doesn't involve using our logical mind to build a way out. It doesn't involve regrowing our arms or legs to get out of the web. The light of awareness finally turns on and we realize we're not stuck in any web at all. There is no web. There is no matrix to get out of. Awareness itself is the way out. Instead of fighting to find a way out, we understand the lessons that must be learned and sink further into them. The fake web was just there for you to realize your soul needs healing and for you to get on with the work of healing your soul. Once that happens, the web simply disappears. The matrix is gone and the soul has done its healing. Here's how this will play out for me. Sometimes these analogies don't translate because they're not rooted in actual real-life examples. So here's one of the things that gets me angry. We live in a very loud second story of one of the busiest four-way stops in our entire city. It is loud. It is ungodly loud. In my 5 sense physical world, there's no peace. Obviously, there's no peace out there because peace must live within me. As I'm typing this, I'm hearing Harley-Davidson motorcycles go by that are so loud car alarms go off. So, here's my plan. I'm going to go sit down on one of the corners of the street and practice compassion. I'm going to practice forgiveness. I'm going to forgive them for being as loud and unaware as they are, and I'm going to forgive myself for getting angry. I'm going to create stories that will facilitate my healing. For example, a group of bikers rides by on their Harley-Davidson bikes. Car alarms go off and buildings shake. Kate reminded me that I could tell myself a story that these people don't get hurt enough. Nobody seems to listen to them, so they'll create a situation where they can be heard whether people like it or not. So when I realize they are injured souls who nobody will listen to, I can more easily pray for them. Creating stories is a gift of power. You can regain power by creating and believing stories. Perhaps I will write an entire article on storytelling and how I've been able to use it with a lot of success. There's something powerful about going into the places that challenge you for the most. For me right now, it's the noise and lack of peace that make me angry. You only get strong by making yourself do things you don't really want to do. Sometimes you have to do it by force. By putting myself in the very area where I get angry and practice conscious healing, my soul will be able to learn those lessons. As with any life change, my lower self will provide plenty of resistance. I'm at least aware enough to know that. The parasite, notice I didn't say my parasite, the parasite doesn't want to die. It's easy living for them. They get to be constantly fed every time I get angry without doing really anything constructive. See, parasites live off their host and provide no real value other than to wake us up, because in reality, we created the parasite in the first place. When you realize your anger isn't something to be hated, but aware of, it helps you to see the world in a whole new way. When you beat yourself up for being angry, you're just feeding the parasite even more. Either way, the parasite gets a meal whether you're angry and you don't know it, or whether you're angry and you realize you're angry. You just fed your parasite a nice meal along with a big dessert. Parasite 2, you 0. It's only when we realize that we create the parasite that we can turn the score upside down. Beliefs. Often, when I'm walking our dog with Kate and a bunch of loud cars go by interrupting our conversation, I'll say something like this to her. There's just too many people living in this town. I get angry because I feel like I have some sort of ownership over this town. I belong here and they don't. When you gain a little awareness, you begin to realize that it's not that there are too many people living here that make it so loud. It's my belief that this is so. My belief is making me angry, not the amount of people. When I really think about it, other people aren't angered by the amount of people and noise where we live. So anger must be subjective, right? Some people are angry, some people are not. The amount of people living here may or may not be making it loud. who am I to say what the exact amount of people that should be living here actually is? What if that number was 10,000? If that group of 10,000 people happened to be the loudest 10,000 people in the world, then maybe 10,000 people would be too much. It's not the number. It's my belief that there is a number. It's my belief that there are too many people living here that I get angry about. I get angry because I have this strange attachment to my belief. Why don't I just ditch that belief? Because it would cost too much. It would require too much work. It would require me to actually face my fears. My subconscious mind knows all this, of course, and that's the other reason I get angry. I beat myself up for getting angry because I know I shouldn't, and then it's a vicious cycle. The only way to heal is through awareness. We need to stop feeding the parasite. We need to then feed our soul by practicing that which the parasite tries to make us avoid. In my case, I need to practice forgiveness, compassion, and love. I need to get in touch with creativity and use creativity to help me make a story that will facilitate not just healing for me, but for them as well. And this can only be done with awareness and love. So if you guys enjoyed this article, you can read it at justinstallman.com/A15, and you can check out the links